here, Dave Jones Gilardi, and as usual, joined by my co-host Carter Rabassa. Hello, Carter.
What's up, everybody? Good to see you for David. I don't even know. Is this like the eighth, ninth episode of the flow?
We're not that far.
We're not.
Seven. I think we're seven.
Okay,
now.
episode number 7. I'm looking forward to getting into double digits, where we can truly, not care about which episode this is. But it's great to see everybody. As David mentioned, my name is Carter Rabassa. I work with him on the developer relations team at IBM, and we're incredibly excited for today's guest. This podcast is all about having conversations and diving into code about what it takes to build with AI. And today we're joined by Michele Dolfi, who is a senior researcher at IBM, and he's also a core committer to Docling.ai. Now, of course, we're going to dive into what Docling is, but there's this sort of cliche about AI where they say that there is no AI without data, and this is going to be sort of the topic for today's podcast, right? So Docling is a really interesting tool that developers use to ingest data into the applications that they're building, and we're going to get into a lot of detail about exactly like what Docling is, how it's different, how it works. But first, I want to kind of turn it over to Michele. So first of all, Michele, thank you so much for joining us, especially given what time it is where you are. So, like, what time is it right now?
So now we are around 8 p.m. Still pretty okay. Don't worry.
Okay.
Anyway, a big pleasure for my side to be in the show. Let's see what we can find today.
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome. So yeah, we're sort of spanning the time zones right now. So like it's 11 a.m. for me here on the Pacific coast here in Seattle. David, what is it, like 2 p.m. in Orlando?
It is. It's 2 p.m. Yep.
Nice. And we got Michele over in Switzerland, where it is, where like he's finished dinner and now he's just going to hang out with us. I've got my coffee. I don't know, Michele, I don't know if you have a beer, but if you do,
I can just go afterwards. I have all of the drinks prepared for later.
I mean, you can just drink them right now. We can make this a very fun and interesting episode.
It's funny. There's a great podcast that I listen to where they drink whiskey.
It's all about Balmer speak, basically.
Exactly. It is all
the time, by the end of the podcast, they're all kind of.
We will, for those of you who are listening and watching that don't know what Balmer's Peak is, we'll explain that later. But awesome. But Michele, it's really great to have you. So the first thing that I ask all of our guests, and I think it's kind of a fun way to like level set the conversation and get to know people. What is the first memory that you have of actually like writing a program or doing some coding?
So I think I have to go quite a few years back left to think about, but I think it's basically like 99 or 2000, something like that. So that's more or less when I was starting. And I think I remember like doing two separate things, but the one that ended up being a bit more active is like, so I was actually very, very engaged in my orienteering club. So it is a sports that actually nobody knows about, but yeah, that's another topic for later. And I ended up like taking on a few responsibilities, like the usual. You start by you run the club website, then just the simple website becomes to be something where you need to manage registrations. So you start to get to know like, oh, those stuff like databases exist. And that was like a way of starting like completely like self-learning. Not really following any courses, or like was way before high school and have any real curriculum about it. That is really like the first stuff I started to do. And yeah, unfortunately, maybe it was still like some PHP stuff in the beginning.
Dude, I cannot believe that you would apologize for that, man. But it's funny, Michele, I don't know if you know this. I mean, I'm not even kidding. Like PHP is making a huge comeback. Like it's actually making a huge comeback. There's a really popular PHP framework called Laravel. That is just like, it is. Honestly, like I don't even understand the why, right? But I know from talking to people and paying attention to social media, like Laravel is making a huge comeback. And I've started to notice a lot of people have been doing really interesting work in WebAssembly. And I've started to notice that like people have built like basically people have built deployable PHP things that are like power under the hood that are powered by WebAssembly.
Interesting.
So
you
they
can
basically would almost run in the browser, right? If I got it right.
yeah, I mean, well, or they can, or if not running in the browser, a lot of like edge computing platforms are effectively, you know, kind of like WebAssembly
Yeah.
compatible, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So no, this is just it's interesting. Like I totally understand like the self-deprecation about like PHP programming being kind of like whatever what beginners do, or it's but the thing that was awesome about PHP though is that it had the best possible developer experience, or it had the best possible deployment experience, right? Like you edited a text file and you uploaded it to your server and it just worked, right?
Yes,
Pop back
and
memories
honestly,
for
one
me.
thing that was always like, like even the last years, I always had in the back of my mind is like, I think you used to just put something online on some hosting provider, and I'm pretty sure they were able to run from a machine. I don't know how many hundreds of websites altogether. And now,
Yeah.
like you need like I don't know how much memory or many CPUs
Yeah,
dedicated to your
so true.
website just to run the current ones.
No, I know. It's like, yeah, things don't always get better. But okay, but before we lose too many people, we will we
All the
will
PhD
turn
people
turn.
are gone. Thanks.
Yeah, it's like, but look, so like let's dive into Docling, right? So like I teed it up at the top of the podcast. You know, Docling is a tool that developers use to process data. So I think what would be super helpful for everyone to understand is and of course there are lots of other tools like out there that do similar things, right? So actually I'd love to simply hear like what's the origin story of Docling, right? Like what was the point where you and the other maintainers of Docling felt like that the current tools that were out there weren't good enough or didn't cover certain use cases, and what was the impetus to start working on Docling? And then once you kind of get us a little bit past like the origin story, you know, like at this point today, like what is Docling? Like, what's the easiest way to describe it to a developer?
Sure. So let's maybe like a small premise that I mean I will try to do the best that I can here to describe and to go through like the actually the years of history. You will understand why in a moment. But just I don't remember if it was this morning or yesterday. Actually, there was a very nice blog post on the IBM website with an interview to Peter Starr, my colleague. That actually even I mean it's all written down a bit like also what is the history behind Docling, because by the way we basically just celebrated in July the first year anniversary of Docling.
Nice.
Yeah, that went pretty well. But actually, like to get to the core of your questions, I think it's fair to say that actually Docling, as I said, basically it's live since July last year. But it's not something that we just started to build and to code just last summer. The topic of being able to process document, to process data in general, it's something that like in our team, I can say we started, I think around 2016, 17. So we go back quite a few years. And believe it or not, back then, the story about how you actually can read documents and PDF documents in the specific was a completely different scenario. So there was not really like many tools that we could consume that really like would give back the quality that we need, that we all need, and we know now as well that we need it to get the right content out. So because one of the key focuses of Docling is to really extract the content of the document. So we try not to care too much about the visualization, which is actually like PDF format. It's really a format designed to look nice on screen and to be able to get the same results when you print it. That's basically it. And like in a nutshell, because it's always nice to bring it up to people that didn't and that never went so deep like we did in our team into PDF documents. Usually I describe it like it is like having a vector graphic tool where you draw a box and you put some content in there. There is no rules or convention that's telling you in which order you need to put your text cell. So you could have one on top, one on the bottom, then you go back to the top. So these are all of the issues with reading orders. And there is, for example, no convention about how much text you put in a single text cells. We have seen documents where you have a full line, a full line of text, all nicely represented. And then some where you have a single word, and the next word it's in the next text cell. And guess what you do in those cases to make it look good? You don't need to actually put the space character in there. You just make the two text cells separated from each other. Visually, it's exactly the same. But when you actually do, a copy paste out of the document, or when you use like what we call these PDF reader tools, you very often you just get a single string of text without any separation between the words. So these are actually like the challenges we had that were like key challenges for us when we started. It's the full idea of converting documents is really like it started as a need for us, because the key part, we didn't want to really convert documents in the beginning. We wanted to use the data, the content, the knowledge in the documents to really do more scientific discoveries, to know, especially there was a lot of focus about, for example, material discovery, properties of that, all of the things that usually you have encoded into scientific publications. So that's why we built these tools that we used initially all before the GenAI era to build knowledge graphs, to do knowledge extractions, and all of it. And it was like just tools we had internally, because indeed that was part of the full activity, but it was not the key component. Then last year, also because of the strong collaboration with the colleagues in Red Hat, they were bringing out to the public this tool, InstructLab, for fine-tuning models. And for fine-tuning models, you need to provide data to it. You need to convert documents.
Right.
And they went completely on their own, trying different solutions they could find that would fit the criteria they have. First of all, they want to run it as an open source project, so they want to have only open source component, not something that is just like an API calling like a black box.
Right.
And when they actually found the work we were doing that was exposed as a service, we were also back then. But since there was this tighter connection, they actually brought it up to us to say, like, do you think you could consider making the full package, the full application like open source? And basically that's where I think within 10 days we went from the initial ideas to discussing it inside the IBM leadership, and then push it out as open source activity. That's basically, like in a nutshell, how Docling came to be. So it's not that we did a huge, when we decided to go open source, sure, we looked also for other solutions that were available out there, but the solution we had already internally was already like going through like many years of let's say development, but also into like try and fail as well. We failed many times.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I had not heard that story yet, and I think that's really interesting. You don't. I guess that there are probably lots of other similar examples of open source coming to be. But most of the examples of popular open source projects that I can think of, they started out open sourced. And then they kind of grew from there. But yeah, like, for instance, I think React is probably a really famous example of what you're describing. Like, I'm fairly certain Facebook
was a need, first of all, right?
Facebook developed React internally. It was just like, some internal thing that they used.
Isn't that the case of Kubernetes as well?
It might be, yeah, actually. It seems like this is, I guess this is the pattern that happens every now and then. But the thing that's kind of nice about it is that because it didn't start out open sourced, you're building something that actually just sort of has to work on the merits, because you're just trying to solve problems, actual sort of business problems that you and your team are trying to tackle. It has to work, right? It can't just be a lot of open source things that I won't necessarily name, like they're incredibly popular, but they don't really work. I guess it's kind of.
Let's name.
And for us, like some key insights is like, for us was always like, it must work. It must be very simple and easy to get to to get initial, like your force factor that like in just a few minutes, even less, you should be able to, it should give you the results you expect.
Yeah.
Otherwise you're just like, you want people that don't have to spend like a full half a day or a full day just to try it
and
out
especially,
before
honestly,
they can
nowadays,
get excited
like,
about it.
I think we all, I'm included in this. I think we've all been tainted in a sense by just the speed at which we expect things to happen. And like, now I remember a day that Carter's probably heard this before. He'll roll his eyes at me, but I remember a day when I had to bang my head against a monitor and read an O'Reilly book or a man page to actually get anywhere with something. And now we just expect, like, if I sign up to a service, that within 5 minutes we're doing something useful, right? And it's I don't think we have the same attention span that we also did, so it's harder to get someone hooked on something if it takes them all day or half a day just to get going.
Well, I think the other thing is, and Michele, we're gonna. I think this is a fantastic transition point to diving into some demos. But before we do that, I think we sort of painted a really clear picture for folks, right? I mean, it's whatever Docling is, it's definitely something that like helps you process PDFs. And I think that you can, and we can. Well, of course. I mean, that's what I mean, right? I mean, like PDFs are, maybe the canonical and like number one thing that people want to parse, but sure, like, I mean, I'm sure it's capable. I mean, we can see examples, or you can tell us like what else it's capable of doing. But I think in terms of the speed at which developers want it to work, I think the angle that I would take, David, is that the developers, this is a problem that they're just not that interested in like spending too much time on, right? Because like the data is important, right? I mean, like,
right? You should already like before I was spending maybe even too much time explaining to you like how does a PDF looks internally, but most people should not care. They should just
that's exactly right. Like the application, like, look, I mean, Michele, I think for Docling, and look, and almost all AI tools, like there's all kinds of different kinds of engineers building different kinds of software powered by AI. I squarely sort of relate to application developers, right? Like I look at the world through the lens of like, hey, someone, a developer who's building an application that is going to be user facing, right? I'm a full stack JavaScript developer. I grew up building web applications, so that's just my bias, right? Like I know that there's many other use cases, but I know for a fact that like most of these people, when they imagine what kind of AI-enabled experiences they want to create for end users, they don't want to spend days or weeks like trying to figure out the data side of it, right? Like they want like a magic wand.
Do the rest.
Yeah, but they do want that data to exist, and they want it to be whatever, queryable and filterable and useful, as a part of like the actual like user-facing application that they're excited to build. So I think anyway, so I think like tools like Docling, the more the more that you can make it so that developers like don't have to know these things or don't have to care about these things, the more useful the tool will be to them, right? So I think we should dive into some demos. I think we've kind of like talked enough.
The screen now. So share screen. Let's go full. Okay, you see my screen, huh?
Yeah, we do.
Oh, hey, nice.
Honestly, it's a bit by chance. I had like a few tabs open, and well, it's actually a good start, right? To say like, if you want to talk about the history, you really see July last year, and then we got the huge starting of the girls like in November, and we are just seeing that today we are gonna, there is a change in the slope. So let's see how much we can keep it going. I know that we did a few of social activity today. Maybe we have also this event. Let's see how much the line is
going up. It wasn't that long ago that Langflow was at 37,000 stars, right? Like, so no pressure. Right?
Good. No, or do pressure. Let's put pressure. So where is the good place to start? I mean, maybe before moving to code, I know that we should go into code and not look into slides, but I actually wanted to, because we talk about like what actually Docling does differently, and I need to go a bit visual to be able to explain that to you.
This is very useful though, right?
And then you will see that one straight in the code, how that one works.
Okay.
Well, actually, like first of all, I mean, do you know about vegetative electron microscopy?
No,
No.
no. Tell us more.
I will be ultra fast. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but that's basically like one slide, and you see like we're taking like from what else people post on social media. This was around like February, March timeframe. And
Mm.
it was actually found out that quite a few now scientific publications write about vegetative electron microscopy, which is a nonsense. So it's something that does not exist, and it is only coming up because people, first of all, I mean, there are many bad aspects to it,
Oh,
but first of all,
no.
people write papers
Yeah.
just using models, and
Yeah.
models know what they were trained with. And this comes from an old article of 1959 where the word vegetative and electron microscopy were in two different columns, like these
No
classic
Yeah.
way.
columns, journals, papers. And if you just take like a naive PDF reader tools, it will actually make a single word out of it.
That's
That's
awful.
like, and that's
Wow.
one of the problems that, like, since now a few years, we know that we can solve properly with Docling, and that's how the paragraph should looks like with vegetative and
Hmm.
electron microscopy, completely at the opposite sides of the of the paragraph. But the interesting part that I have actually on this slide, and I'm not even going into presentation mode, should be big enough, right?
Yeah.
Hmm.
What we actually like, one of the key components of Docklink is the identifying the sections that we call clusters in the page, and to apply, let's say, a logic to those. What I mean is, like, we will identify table regions,
Right.
pictures regions, identifying this is a caption. That's a caption of the table, and we need to link it. That's a caption of the figures as well. And you have, for example, a page header on the top, and the different columns. And you have, for example, a sentence, a paragraph that starts on one column and continues on the next one.
Hmm.
So these are like the type of components that we identify with Docklink, and we have let's say, special treatment. So this really allows us to create, to fix the reading order in case it is done in a wrong way, and to really get the content of the document and the flow of the content without interleaving other piece of text. For example, if you would just take a naive PDF reader, you would get something that looks like on the right side, where
Hmm.
you have the page headers, you have the tables, all like basically unrolled as text.
Right.
Then you have, for example, a paragraph. Then you have the caption of the figures, and then you continue with the paragraph on the next side. So we usually try to take these, what we call these floating objects, take them away from the flow in the way that you really get the full, the content, the sentences are all, they continue properly. And for example, even the page header and footers, we exclude them from what we usually export by default, because then you
Hmm.
really have the clean content. Anyway, that was as much as I was thinking of showing you on slide. And
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
look, before we dive into code,
yeah,
because I want to ask a architectural question, right? So when you talk about Docling and you talk about what Docling does to, I don't know, in terms of interpreting the PDF data, and like, is Docling using any models or any AI at like in that specific process?
yes. And good that I have a
Great.
slide for it.
Because I
Um,
think like that's important, right? Because I
Yeah,
think like
yeah, and that's actually, it's
a
very
lot of
good to touch.
legacy.
It's
Yeah.
very good to touch on that one, because it will actually, you will see all of these pieces being reflected into the code examples I show in a moment. So
Okay, great,
actually,
great.
like, this actually helps me to also like bring up one key concept of Docklink, which
Mm,
is the concept of like a conversion pipeline, which is what you see in this yellow color. That creates this Docklink document, which is really like the most lossless representation of the document that we can create. And out of
mhm,
this one, then you can really like take the content of the document and use it in your GenAI applications. Like you can go
mm.
to Markdown, to HTML, you can chunk it, you can build data sets. Honestly, we always like to be surprised by what the users do. The yellow part, it's really the one where AI is being applied.
Okay.
We have a bunch of options because, like, we don't only support PDF, we also have different file formats, but those are
Mhm.
honestly simple as the name of the pipeline. They just go through and there is almost no AI applied to it. But when we convert a document, we that's actually a good point to point a good things to point out. The fourth step, we actually use a PDF reader. So everything I was saying before, that like PDF readers will give you like this string of text that it's
Mhm.
wrong. We actually do it, but it's just one of the steps.
Right.
Yeah.
Then and then we actually apply. Okay, if it is a scanned document, we have to do OCR to get the same out of a
Mhm.
scanned document. That I think it's pretty clear. But then we have this layout analysis, which is an object detection model that we really like.
Cool.
It's going to identify the boxes as I described before. And for a few components, for example, tables, we created a dedicated model which is able to take the figure of the table and reconstruct the 2D grid, including
Mm.
all of the special features of tables, for example, multi-column headers and all of the like the really complex tables we have seen. I mean, there are still tables where that we don't get 100% correct. I mean, it will
Yeah.
never be, but we know that we have a very, very, very good coverage of tables compared to many other tools. I mean, just to mention like an example, like now maybe you can use like a vision language models to just go straight to a markdown export, but if you go to markdown, you're limited to the convention of markdown, where for example
Mhm.
tables in the markdown representation don't
Mhm.
support multi-column headers. Sure, you
That's
can
right.
put HTML in there, but it's still something a bit different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's
Okay.
really why we have this Docling document representation, which is as much as we can a lossless representation. Like we can also always point each piece of text, and you will see it's very important in, for example, doing visual grounding. In one of the examples we have, where we can trace each component, where it is coming from which page, where on the page, and so on and so forth.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Now let's dive into code.
Let's dive into code, right?
Yeah.
And if you feel like something is unclear, by the way, is the font big enough? I can make it bigger.
Make it a little bigger.
Yeah.
Let's go
There you
bigger.
go.
So, by the way, this is like a set of notebooks that we just use also in some conference workshop. We will put the link, I guess, so that is available for everybody to run.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like we have these repository Docling workshops where we list all of the activities we're doing, and we're trying to put everything there.
Nice.
In a nutshell, I mean, okay, these are the basic imports that you have in Docling, but this is your guide. This is like the document converter is basically the one which is going to be the one doing all of the job. Because a minimal example of Docling will basically be, well, let me actually stop run, will be this. So basically these three lines will be the document conversion. You create a converter object, you do converter.convert, you give it a URL, a local file, and then it's we can launch it. This will actually like now fetch it, and in a few seconds it will do all of the steps of the pipelines that we described before. You see,
Nice.
now it's done, and now we have this doc object. Now, just to make it in context, now we are at this stage. We have this doc object here.
Yeah.
And one of the things we can do is, for example, export to Markdown. Before even running it, like we have like export to HTML, just to pure text, or a few other more specific one. And we also have, for example, save that will actually save the file. Something which is also interesting. I think I have it in a few blocks afterwards, so I might just spoil my demo. But we have this image mode, which is which allows to. I mean, it allows you to choose how you want to see the images that are in the paper or in the document, how you want to have them in the final representation. Because we can also, by default, I think we put a placeholder to say like, here was a picture, but you can also embed them. Then you will really have a self-contained document that contains all of those. Or we can save them to a file, and then, like, for example, if you have an HTML file, it's going to link to the local file.
Oh, that's cool. Okay. Yeah.
So more on the Docling document key elements. You see, like we can print name is going to be like a document title. We have like we can easily print how many pages, how many tables. So like this basically this higher level concept that we have in there. Another important functions is like iterate items, which is the one that, I mean, as the name says, is really like goes. I mean, the key part, it goes linearly through all of the components components in the document. And I wanted to emphasize linearly because there is actually a hierarchy usually in documents. You can imagine, like, for example, like sections or maybe like a bullet list, maybe multiple level of bullet lists.
Right.
All of this basically we want to address, and that's what the iterate will just go linearly through all of them. And you can just, in this case, we are just printing it. I'm just going to a bit more like the interesting part, like this. I guess everybody can understand a bit what is going on. Another interesting feature we have is like the tables object. Once you have the table, you can actually do things like give me a data frame.
Nice.
And then you can just show it. You can, I don't know, save it to CSV, put it in your database, do whatever you want with it. So that's, you see a few examples. But now we get to actually like an interesting part, two interesting parts. So that's where I was saying that we can actually like, so that's it. Now here comes like one of the key parts. Before I was telling you like the Docling converter, it's your guy, it's gonna like do the conversion. And that's what it does by default. What we have in these next code blocks is how you can customize and change what happens during conversion. I mean, in most cases, the default settings work, but like with this pipeline options object, and you see like already here some of the options that we have available. Like in this case, we can choose. I was already saying before, like we can print and include the images. We can choose at which resolution, the image scale. We can choose then which type of table structure to use, whether to use or not OCR. And we also have a few interesting parts that are like what we call enrichments. So these are the one that for very specific type of document item, as we call them, you can enrich them more. For example, if we have a formula, something that is detected really like as an equation, a formula, we developed a model which is really able to take, to really make the LaTeX representation of it. When we have a piece of code, we have a specialized model which is able to extract all of the code in the correct format. That might sound something silly, but if you remember what I was saying before about the PDF just having these boxes, one of the things that you can easily skip is indentation spaces, right? So good luck in having, for example, a Python code with wrong indentation. So that's what this model is actually focusing on.
Sorry to interrupt, but I'm hearing, and I'm funny enough, I was just about to ask you about formulas. I was just about to ask you that, and all of a sudden you popped it up here. But it sounds like then Docling would be particularly good at technical documentation or code-based documentation, something like that, like really kind of maintaining, especially the indentation in code. That like that part right there is like super important if you were trying to extract something like that and you want to save it in a format that's going to respect the code formatting and everything.
And I mean, you know, I guess you don't have to go too far from understand that we are coming from an academic background. We did a lot on scientific literature, but it's already quite a few years where we also switch gears and we know about all of the nice, let's say, more business-oriented documents, where usually we like to say they're just documents that look good, but they're not done to be. I mean, they're just visual eventually, and that's the new challenge. Like to train these models, we actually do annotation campaigns. We annotate and we release data sets. So we actually have some of the data sets we use, and I think some of the demos we have, it's even using the paper describing our data set, just to make it more funny. And in those data sets, you find like a huge variety of business documents. We, for example, put there IKEA manuals, car manuals, like all type of documents that like usually is not what you think you would really think about.
Okay.
Michele, so I know that we've already established that like for some of the processing of documents, there will be models that will be run like on the data in order to basically parse out the relevant data. Like, are all of those models like built into the Docling distribution itself? Like when I pip install Docling, am I
So
getting all of these models as?
what we try to do is that pip install, and so because on the PyPy register you don't have much space. Believe me, we reached the quota. We had to ask a ticket to erase it.
Yeah.
But we actually have all of the models are hosted on Hugging Face, and the
Okay.
first time you run it, it's gonna like automatically download it, and then it's actually there in your cache. And it's
Okay.
also gonna download only the models that you use with your settings of your pipelines. So you don't, because that's also the reason why these like I was showing like the code formula. So those are disabled by default, also because they like they are a bit more expensive, but they are very
Right.
useful when you need them. But you really need to download and to launch a bigger model into, in the pipeline.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Yeah. Sure.
Yeah,
So
that's wonderful.
from the developer's perspective, like they they have control over this, right? They can
We have a
install
utility
Docling.
that is going to download them all at once, because sometimes you want to prepare your nice package that you can
Right.
ship,
Mhm.
and it is all done.
Okay. Are
Good.
there another quick question? Are I mean, like OCR, let's just use OCR as an example. Like, so there's some kind of OCR model that you made it, you didn't even build it, right? It's another piece of open source. It's coming down from Hugging Face. Are the interfaces in Docling defined in such a way that like I could substitute like my own preferred OCR model like into the Docling pipeline? Like,
Yeah.
is that possible?
This is actually one of the, let me jump to the, by the way, that's our nice new website, docling.ai.
Yeah,
Let's see if I find the right page in the documentation. Now that I have too much zoom on, it does not show the menu. Which one is the one I was now looking at? Plugins. So we
yeah.
actually have the concept of plugins in Docling that we want to
Well,
expand much more.
there you go.
And one
Yeah.
of the things we actually have, it's a plugin to really like bring your own OCR
So,
engine.
by the way,
Uh,
for people who are listening, like this is not a planted question. Like
Exactly. I was
I
like,
have never seen this page in my life. It's so
yeah,
funny.
yeah. I was about to say like,
cool.
nice that it just came out. Yes.
Mm.
So we actually, and like honestly, you even capture another important point at the moment. I think actually we have it in the advanced usages OCR. I will have to find it. I mean, let's use a search in the documentation. Okay, maybe I'm just spending too much time, but
It's okay.
OCR engines. So
Ah.
this is the
Oh,
list of
right.
OCR engines we have, which are
Mm.
all of them are like third-party OCR engines for the moment.
Yeah.
So you basically choose which one you want to run in the pipeline, and it's also
Okay.
interesting that I think half of them were community contributed.
Yeah.
That's also what is great about
Now,
having a nice
are
open
these
source.
all considered plugins underneath the hood? Like, are they
They
just
are all implemented and exposed as plugins, but they are
right.
part of the core of the
So
main
they
Docling
come with the
package.
package. It's, you can easy access. I know for the little I've done in Docling, you can easily get access to like easy OCR and Tesseract and things like that.
Yep.
But they're all using that same architecture that if I wanted to bring in a different OCR model as a plugin, that then I could attach.
Then it's what is on the other page. So this
Gotcha.
really allows you to basically bring in any.
Yeah.
I mean, sure, you need to fulfill the same. You need to basically derive from the base class.
Yeah.
But it's very few things that you need to implement.
Got
You
it.
basically need to have a way to give back the text cells with their location and the content. More or less, that's what you need to do for the OCR specifically.
Cool. That gives me
Sweet.
that definitely gives me some thoughts and some things I could put together.
And really like we really want it's really like one area. I mean, one topic where we're gonna expand a lot more in the coming months with Docling, because we want way more plugin functionalities. I mean, for example, being able to put custom backends for given data types. You want people that can bring in their own data types, and then everything can move into the upstream project as well. But first of all, they can contribute it as a package, and then people install Docling, install the other packages, and then everything can run in the same pipeline.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, something I'm actually quite interested about is in we've talked a lot about documents and things like that. But I could swear I saw on the Docling page somewhere, as I was kind of like perusing around at one point, I was messing with stuff, audio. Did I see something like that? Like some
You
kind of
mean
support?
because the duckling here is wearing headphones?
No, I mean that. There you go. But no, that wasn't it. I actually did not notice that he was wearing headphones until you just said this.
So yes, that's correct. We also have the possibility to have. I mean, it's actually written here on the README of Docling. We already integrate by running to be able to get audio, for example, of a podcast like this, and to process with like these speech recognition models. And we really like there on this topic we didn't develop models ourselves, but we rely on open source models, and then we pipe all of the content in a Docling document again, such that we can go back to the picture I had here. You
Right.
get it all into this uniform format, out of which you can go to all of your next steps.
Awesome. Okay.
I wanted to show you like one extra thing that we do here that I think it's usually not exciting because it goes into, I mean, I don't want to spend all of this, but this is actually an interesting part that we have in this case. So this is the feature. Again, you have your pipeline options, and one of the things we can set is the picture description, which a bit, as the name says, it allows to use a vision language models with a prompt that you provide to really like it. While you're converting the document, it will put a textual description to the figures. We're also looking to do something similar also for tables, to have a textual description of the tables, or even the code. Imagine you have a code snippet, you want to maybe to have a model describing it and making a quick doc string. Because this is all information that when you want to build, for example, a multimodal RAG application, you easily encode as text, and then you can always retrieve those components.
Okay.
And I mean, here you see a few examples on how the output looks like. If I find that, I will show it. I mean, that's like, I just didn't want to spend too much on these codes. That is like, I guess people can look at that on their own. But here we have two things to highlight. First of all, that we have chunkers in Docling that allow to chunk the document by being, let's say, respectful of the document layout. To know that you have paragraphs, that you have sections, that all of the document components in a way that you don't split what should not be split if you don't really have to, and you can merge in stuff that needs to be merged. Like, for example, you can imagine like you create your chunk by just going paragraph by paragraph, and if it does not fit, you don't put it there, or you put it. I mean, like, you don't really like cut what should not be cut. And what this allows, again, you can build then the multimodal RAG, but what I think it was interesting to show, sorry that I need to scroll to the actual visual part, is, where is it? Come on, it's coming. Here we go. So this is what we can do. Like in Docling, that's like the example of doing a RAG query. I think question the specific. I think it's something about how much was spent compared to the amount of food distributed. And you see which items in the documents were retrieved, and the first one is actually like an image, which you can always bring back the user to the full page and to really highlight which one is the relevant part that contributed to the final answer. Like this, we can do with all of the other text elements, which usually it's very powerful to show that, first of all, you can do multimodal RAG, and because Docling has all of this metadata in the Docling document, you can always point back the user to where it's coming from.
Let me pose this back at you. I want to make sure I have this right. So what I think I'm hearing is that you're saying that I could do like a RAG-based query, a search on like a document like this, like a PDF or something with these images, and Docling could then return me a document that actually is showing me the bounding boxes of the things that were relevant in those search results. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
Oh, that's
I mean, you
cool.
basically get the chunks of text that then you use. You use your generative models to generate a final answer to the user. But you
Nice.
can
Right.
also show to the user why, how, why. I mean, where the answer is coming from. That's what we call, at least ourselves, we call it visual grounding. Okay,
Wait,
maybe.
that's really cool though. But like, Michele, can you scroll up and like, what did the code look like to tell Docling to do these bounding boxes?
Yes. So the key part is that I want to actually show is like when we actually call the chunking. So we basically chunk the document.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean the naming here is pretty clear. But this in the specific now with this demo, it's actually built using LangChain. So when this document
Uh-huh.
object is actually a LangChain document object,
Okay.
Okay.
and we are putting this metadata together with a text. You see, the text is what
Hmm.
comes out of the contextualized method
Okay.
of Ranker, and then we put the document ID, okay, but we have the picture reference. Where is there should be? I think it's what we call sources or refs. Where is the
Mm.
refs? These are like
Mm.
now do I have it pointed out, but they look like these hashtag slash picture
Mm.
slash 10
Yeah.
Mm.
or text slash 21, and those are like what we call anchors identifiers that we
Mm.
can use
Yeah.
to then go back in the Docling document where we have in the item we have the provenance, the page, the bounding box, and so on and so forth.
Okay.
Okay. This is super cool. Hey,
Yeah.
I don't know if you have this like demoable, but I know that Docling like announced a pretty cool new feature today, around structured output. Is that something that we
We
can
we
talk about?
we did announce it. I don't have it on the demo here, but I can show you a bit how it looks like.
Yeah,
Let
and then just like while Michele's pulling it up, I mean, I think my sort of actually you should tell me if I'm right or wrong, right? But like the way that I sort of read the announcement, is that I think developers have been using and taking advantage of structured outputs from LLMs for like a long
Yeah.
time now,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Where they can ask the LLM a question, and then they can define some kind of schema, that the LLM will try to sort of put the answer into, which once again, from a developer's perspective, is
Yeah.
is very useful because my downstream code is expecting that data to be structured a certain way, so I can operate on it.
You know
And
what?
it's yeah.
I actually like show you like one piece of code here, but I show you also another connection because we also
Okay.
have it available in NCP, which I think I have actually something that I was running that is a bit nicer to show. But in a
Okay.
nutshell, so what we have these new features. You remember before I was telling you we have the document converter.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Now the new guy is document extractor, and document extractor has the extract function where you give it the file and then the template. And the template
Mm.
is, in this case, it can be like a
Yeah.
string, a dictionary,
Mhm.
a semantic object. And then internally, we use these nice vision language models that can do like structure information extraction, and we return back. I mean, I'm just showing you like from the
Yeah.
actual test how the stuff is called and
Yeah.
validated, but we basically get back in the results object the extracted data that we can show to
Right. 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 Yeah. And then it conforms to the schema that I've given it.
yeah, that's like another
Nice.
example we're building. So now I just switched to the, we have actually an integration of a Docling MCP, as MCP tools that we, for example,
Mhm.
run, in this case in LM Studio, but I mean, eventually one tool is like the other one.
Yeah.
And that's like an example query that I was doing I was saying like, to give you an idea about this, can I just right click? Let's see. So the document looks like that. It's
Yeah.
like
Some
some of the
specs.
card with
Yeah.
Yeah.
all of the data sheets with all of the components soldered on it. And I'm asking like which CPU type, which RAM, how much flash, SSD storage, and so on and so forth. And then here we see actually the tool using, you
Mm.
see the right side, all of the tools that are available. And we have, in this case, it did the conversion. So like it
Mm.
converted the document into the internal representation. And then it does a tool call by defining automatically which schema. And as you see here, you have the results that can also be shown. I mean, that's the model that makes a nice table.
Yeah.
So that's like some of the new exciting features that we have. Indeed, was just announced today. And
wait, this is, but sorry, like I feel like what am I even looking like? What when you say Docling MCP server, what do you mean by that?
So
what is
that's
this?
like we have I mean, I guess MCP, especially like on this on this show, it should be a given, right? But
Yeah.
we have a few like components here that a few tools, sorry, to use the right word,
Yeah.
that allow to operate with documents. I mean, some of the interesting stuff we do is we can convert document and summarize them. I mean, I can just run it live, then we see.
Yeah, but just to be clear, while you're running this, Michele, like if does the Docling distribution come with like a built-in MCP server that developers can run?
So basically, you do pip install Docling minus MCP, and then you have it. Yes.
Oh wow.
Yes.
Oh,
It's how simple it is to run it. And actually, like for
that's awesome.
let me see, just Docling MCP. We even have from the main README. You see, like we like our avatars.
I'm sorry, I'm laughing at the graphic. It's too funny.
Yeah.
And by the
That's
way,
great.
like just to like go a bit into some of the call to actions. If people want to join us at Text Exchange, we have plenty of stickers to give away. Yeah.
That's true. Do we what are the dates? Does anyone off the top of their head remember the exact dates for Tech Exchange? I think it's the sixth. It's the 6th to the 9th, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So for folks that are watching or listening, IBM hosts like a really great event for developers called Tech Exchange. It'll be my first time, me and David's first time attending, but we're really looking forward to it. So wait, a couple things for folks that are paying attention. It's in Orlando, Florida. It's coming up October 6th to the 9th.
Yep.
And there is on Monday, which is I believe is the 6th. You can attend for free. So normally, like, it's a conference where you buy tickets and stuff, but I believe that Monday is it's kind of known as like the kind of like open source day. And they make it available for everybody. If you
Docling workshop on the Monday.
Yeah. So anyway, if it's possible to get to Orlando on October 6th, it sounds like this can be a really, really great day to explore like a lot of interesting open source projects, including Docling, of course. If you have any questions about Tech Exchange, feel free to reach out to myself or David. We'd be happy to pass along more information. But yeah, we're really looking forward to it.
Now, yeah, right, you're right. You were asking about the package and how to install it. So that's on the README of Docling MCP. We have like an example snippet on how you can include it. Like that's the install string you can put in there as a package, or like some tools like LM Studio. They gave us like we can just do a one-click install and then it's there.
Yeah. No, this is awesome, and I think. I'm not sure if you said this explicitly, but like, yeah, MCP is fast becoming like the de facto expected like integration point for people that are building in this space. It's becoming one of those things where like if you don't have an MCP server, people are kind of confused. They're like, "What do you mean you don't have an MCP server?" But it's just sort of like. But it really is true, just in the sense that, like if you look at an open source project like Docling, and you can look at all those actions on the right, or those tools, I guess is, the word, right? But there's dozens of them, right? And like in the absence of MCP, sure, you as a developer can, you can write however many hundreds or thousands of lines of Python code to stitch them together. But, people are realizing that at least for some set of use cases, MCP is just more efficient.
And really,
Especially if you,
like it
yeah,
fits very much the spirit we also had all the time with Docling to that it should be a simple component to integrate in your workflow, in your tools. We don't want to like replace your tools. Like we don't want to
yeah,
have a full Gen AI application frameworks. We just want to do the document conversion and then integrate it into your tool of choice. So MCP is basically like a way to connect to all of the to very nice I mean, eventually agentic flows, all of every time you have like some interaction with a model, it's the way to allow models to work with a document. And one things we're actually doing now, we're talking a lot about the conversion, but in the MCP, we went even one step further. We are actually looking to generate documents.
yeah,
We
right.
are we like usually like we have this type of example prompts where we say like create a document
Hmm.
about the future of open source AI, and then the model goes, it creates like the tool, create a new document, add a paragraph, add a new list in the
Hmm.
and then eventually you get I mean, that's just a small snippet of the markdown
Of
way.
course, of course. Yeah, it's like just a kind of a demo of what's possible.
Yep.
Michele, this is just super cool. It's funny, like I'm in the midst of here in America, we have American football, which is the crappier version of the football that you enjoy. But I do love it. And here in the States, a lot of people play a game called fantasy football, where you sort of you can like me and my friends play, and we can build our own teams with our favorite players, and when they score points in real life, like I accrue points. Anyway, it's a very fun game. And there's tons of there's actually like a lot of like documentation out there in PDF form, like cheat sheets, like sort of information on who the best players are, and how they're ranked, and these things are generally like shared and released as like PDFs because they're meant to be used by people. You're meant to sit there with a piece of paper and
Not by
sort of
tools.
like, yeah, but of course I'm a programmer, and I love to build with AI. So like I'm immediately thinking like, oh, I need to get my hands on these PDFs, and then like, but how am I going to process them, and how am I going to get kind of like AI enable myself to succeed at
I
fantasy
mean, you're the
football? And
kind of like, I mean, maybe your example is a bit nicer. Like what we have in our mind, we were also thinking of filing our tax forms by automating document processing and the file.
That seems.
that's right.
I love
No, I
it.
mean, but it's true. I mean, like, I think there's just, the world. It's funny. Like, AI was obviously like built on the back of the internet, right, and the World Wide Web, and for the most part, like HTML, right. I mean, like all this, and I think, but I think, there's obviously like a much larger world out there of, of kind of like non-HTML content, right? Whether it's PDFs or scanned books or just all this stuff. And as people like want to like build like the better good reads, or like the better versions of these experiences that are powered by this data, they're going to have to figure out how to sort of how to unlock that stuff, right? So yeah, so Docling just seems really really cool. And thanks so much for taking the time to hang out with us. Quick question for you. For folks that want to learn more about Docling, like what should they do?
So, well, I guess I mentioned before, like the Docling.ai website. It's
Yep.
basically, I would say, the starting point. Uh, Go there, but don't forget to click on the link to the GitHub repo, because we're always
Mm.
looking to increase the stars numbers. So we are looking, for example. So
It's like, please, yeah, please
Star.
star the Docling repo. And
exactly.
while you're watching this, please subscribe and rate and review the flow. That we greatly appreciate it.
Then I mean, we really just love people to try it out, to give us
Yeah.
feedbacks. One thing that actually, like, we are also launching, and you find the link in the website, is a Discord server, so you can actually like join
Nice.
there. We are gonna start as a bit more regular community calls, so like we're gonna like maybe go deeper into some of the document topics
Mm.
on a regular pace.
Nice.
And we're just looking forward to meet everybody, like in conferences, or like where we get like some workshops and to get together. One thing that actually, like, if you want to get your hands on also with Docling and maybe with a bit less code, I mean, as you know, like
Mm.
already like as a bundle component in Langflow, so you can just like let it run.
That's
Yeah, and
right.
there's
Yeah.
and
So
there's some
yeah,
Everything I showed you, you can basically do with building
yeah.
blocks.
Docling is integrated into David
yes.
and I's favorite AI tool of choice. And actually, I think we're going to
Bingo.
have some fun announcements.
Yes.
The next
Promoted
version of
and
Langflow
then
is coming
yeah.
up in a few weeks. Langflow
Yeah.
1.6, and I think we're going to have some fun stuff to share about Docling there.
Yes.
But all right, awesome. Well, Michele, thank you so much for joining us. Thanks for everyone who watched. This is another awesome episode of the Flow where I now have no choice but to block out 3 hours of my calendar to go play with cool new toys.
I need to
My
go build the new Goodreads there,
Yeah,
Carter. You know.
I know, right? Exactly. I can't tell you that one of the best things about AI. There's so many apps that I have no choice but to use because there aren't really like great alternatives for them. But I'm so disappointed in them. Like I think Goodreads is basically a super mediocre app that no one has created like the better version of. And there's many more that you can all think of yourselves. And but I get excited because I'm like I think to myself like wow, like using AI, using tools like Docling, like it's funny, like I'm hosting a hackathon here in Seattle in like 3 weeks. And Michele, you won't believe like what these developers can build in just 24 hours,
That's right. That's
using
right.
these
I mean,
tools.
that's cool always to see what's coming out. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's awesome. But once again, thank you so much for joining us. Thanks for everyone for tuning in, and we will see you next time on The Flow. So take care.
See you,
Bye-bye.
everybody.
Right.